The new IKEA Smart product line could be a game changer. They propose smart home products at a very competitive price, and yet they are full of surprises. Since I got them 2 weeks ago, I discovered a few things, and some are actually hidden by IKEA. We're going to review each product line, and I'm gonna give you my personal opinion on which products are actually worth buying, which you should avoid, and what you can expect in terms of quality. However, the first thing that we need to discuss is connectivity, because there's been a lot going on since the release in December. First of all, the big question, should you buy the IKEA Smart Home Hub? For me, the answer is no. It's super expensive and it's just like a Zigbee and Thread bridge, which doesn't guarantee compatibility with third-party devices, meaning devices that you buy from other manufacturers. On top of that, the new line of products work with Matter, so there is a high chance that if you have any of these products that you can see here at home, you don't need a third-party hub. However, if you just started your smart home and you don't have any Matter bridge in your house, the IKEA bridge might be a necessary and good purchase for you. I consider this very important information as IKEA doesn't give a lot of info when it comes to connectivity. The only thing written on these new products is Matter, which can be quite confusing. If you don't know, Matter is a standard, not a technology. You could see Matter as a software that needs to run on a hardware. And here, the hardware behind this Matter for all those new devices is Thread. And this is what we call Matter over Thread. I give you my personal opinion. At this point in time, I dislike Thread. It's full of issues and it's very hard to debug. But if I have to be honest, with the push from all of the brands in the smart home domain, now almost everyone has a Matter over Thread bridge. So once again, if you have at least one of those smart assistants in your house, you can integrate all of the new IKEA devices in your ecosystem. It's seamless. You're not gonna need any bridge and it's really plug and play. However, if you're like me and you prefer Zigbee, I do have some good news for you. Some of the products are also secretly compatible with Zigbee, even if it's not actually written anywhere. So how is that possible, you may ask? Well, first of all, because Thread and Zigbee are two very similar technologies. And on the hardware stack, it's literally like the same. So IKEA actually embedded a chip that can technically do both Zigbee and Thread. But now the second question you may ask is, why would they need Zigbee if they prefer to go with Matter over Thread? And that is a very interesting topic. See, when you buy this bundle IKEA kit containing one or more bulbs plus a remote control, they are made to work out of the box, meaning without a bridge between them. That is possible because, unlike Thread, Zigbee has a technology that is called TouchLink, where devices can communicate directly without needing of an orchestrated Zigbee network. So just a one-on-one communication between the remote and the bulb, for example. And that is super convenient for IKEA because it allows them to sell these smart home packages to people that don't really want to be bothered with an app, a smart home ecosystem, and are not like us smart home maniacs and just want the lights with a simple remote. IKEA, of course, designing those new devices didn't want to lose that feature when they offer bundles with the new Matter devices. So technically, all of the new devices can work on Zigbee. And what's crazy actually is that the chip built inside has some documentation online indicating that it could operate with Zigbee and Thread simultaneously, therefore making a user experience even better eventually in the future. However, as per today, the community only found a way to connect some of the products to Zigbee, namely the lights and the remote controls, of course, and maybe actually one or two sensors. And switching the devices into Zigbee mode is actually not that intuitive since there is no info given by IKEA. I personally relied on other people's findings. For instance, I found that the new LED bulbs require 6 power cycle, meaning that you have to flip the switch 12 times to put into Matter over Thread pairing mode. If you want to put it into Zigbee mode, however, you need to double that, 12 power cycles, so flipping the switch 24 times. However, I also found that the filament version of the same series required 15 power cycles to be put into Zigbee mode. That's actually pretty strange because you have to flip the switch on and off 30 times. When it comes to sensors, they would be technically compatible with Zigbee. However, I found that only the remote control is pairable with Zigbee at the moment, which makes sense since they need the TouchLink technology. The lights definitely represent the biggest category here. The new models come in various shapes and sizes. You have the E27 and E14 LED bulbs, both available with white spectrum and color spectrum. White spectrum meaning that you can change from cold white to warm white, whereas with the color spectrum, you can have the white spectrum and any RGB color. There is also the E27 bulb available in the filament version, which works over the white spectrum only. You also have the GU10 version available once again with the white spectrum or the full color spectrum. Most of these bulbs have various lumen intensities, so make sure you get the right one for each location. For reference, a 806 lumens is ideal for decorative or ambient lighting, whereas a 1521 lumen bulb is more suited for what we call now the big lights that are our generation 8s. So as you can see, we're talking about very affordable options. If you compare to brands like Philips Hue, for example, you might wonder why there is such a huge gap between two very similar products, at least on the paper. And this new IKEA series definitely lives up to what's written on the paper. You can connect those both whether via Matter over Thread or Zigbee and remotely control them with ease. Here, for example, the IKEA bulb on the left is set to work with Matter over Thread and the IKEA bulb on the right is connected via Zigbee. And I am not able to notice any major difference. For context, I equipped my old staircase, my girlfriend's studio, and my living room with the new IKEA bulbs. And the first impression is actually amazing. The pairing is seamless, they are very bright and super responsive to remote control, regardless of the protocol you use them with. I added them to my Home Assistant dashboard and started automatizing them. Automatizing them. The lights were programmed to turn on and off depending on motion and or presence. Once again, my first impression was very positive and they work as intended. However, it's within the first couple of hours that I started noticing a few details. If you're used to other premium bulbs, you notice that they seamlessly blend from one color or intensity to another. And with IKEA, it's not the case, or not always the case to be precise. When you turn them on or off, you get that little transition that is probably hard-coded within the bulb itself, and it's actually very nice. But when you change color or intensity manually, the change is quite abrupt. So that's pretty weird because you only get the nice transition turning them on or off, but not when you change the setting of that light. Another thing is the wide spectrum quality. I've put all of the new IKEA lights on the adaptive lighting integration on Home Assistant. It's an integration that I use to automatically adjust the intensity and color of all of my lights throughout the day to mimic the position of the sun. And as the sun started to set, I noticed that the warm colors on the wide spectrum bulbs didn't feel right. The usual warm white that you get from other brands such as Philips Hue, Aqara, or even Goovy is almost always a warm orange light, which feels great and relaxing. The IKEA white bulbs, however, deliver a warm white that is closer to yellow than anything else. Actually, past 8 p.m, it's just straight up yellow, exactly like those old yellow car headlights. And if you actually compare and put these lights next to other non-IKEA lights, the difference is actually very noticeable. If you use Home Assistant and the adaptive lighting integration like me, and if you actually have the colored version of the lights, you will actually have a better experience. In fact, I noticed that the colored version of the bulb actually does that warm orange light when you set it to warm white. So if you have the chance, and since it's only €2 more where I'm at, I'd suggest you get the colored version to have the best whites possible. And it sounds weird said like this, but it's actually true. Another defect that I've noted is that sometimes certain bulbs will not turn on the first command, or just tend to become unresponsive at times. This is something I've also noticed on the past IKEA bulb generation, on another Smart Home network configuration and a completely different Zigbee thread coordinator. To have a quick fix, on the automations, I'm sending actually the turn on command twice with 1 or 2 seconds of interval. I'm confident to say that this issue is inherent to IKEA bulbs in that my Zigbee network is pretty good and strong. Certainly not the best nor the most optimized, just good, as I try to capture what could be the average experience with certain and determined products. Unfortunately, one of the E14 bulbs straight up stopped working and started flickering. I think it was just bad luck, but anyway, IKEA has a great return policy, so I just went back and exchanged it with a new working one. So definitely, you want to keep your IKEA ticket for 1 full year. So are these IKEA bulbs worth it? I think so, yes. Even if they have some small defects, it's definitely a great deal for the price. Of course, you may not want to use IKEA bulbs everywhere in your house. I actually think that you shouldn't buy all from IKEA or all from Philips Hue or any other brand. As for me, each device has a proper use case. I actually see IKEA bulbs useful in non-critical rooms, like a laundry room or a garage, where you don't really care about the quality of the light. You just want lots of brightness, because they deliver in brightness. And being able to customize the white is a plus, not a need. Conversely, you may not want to buy Philips Hue lights for a garage, as it might be overkill. Along with the lights, IKEA released a couple of very cool sensors. On top of being very cheap, what's very interesting about them is the fact that they all use AAA batteries and not the usual rounded batteries. This is actually amazing for 2 things. First, you get extended battery life, so less maintenance. And second, it's easier and cheaper to replace, as you can just have rechargeable batteries, which IKEA conveniently sells. That's actually a great strategy. So the first sensor I want to talk about is the door sensor. Once again, pairing is seamless and the door sensor does the job pretty well. The status report is actually incredibly fast, which is crazy for that price range, by the way. But once again, do not expect an outstanding precision, as the sensor will report that the door is closed when actually ajar, which can be very problematic depending on where you've put it. For example, here I've put it on my entry door frame, but I will of course remove it, because as leaving the door ajar will make the sensor report that the door is closed, it may actually jam the lock smarter because it could trigger it when the door is actually open. I've actually had a similar impression on the sun-off, door and window sensor, although costing twice as much as the IKEA one. For such critical place, I'll be better off putting an expensive ALPSTUGA door sensor on it, as it's very precise and it won't risk anything. Other than that, this door sensor is an absolute steal. You should definitely consider buying it to put it on non-critical places like drawers or indoor doors. If you're looking for a plain temperature sensor and humidity sensor, you can consider this brand new IKEA sensor. It's cheap and works great. There are just two things that I don't really like about it. First of all, the back plate isn't magnetic. You can attach it anywhere, you need a nail. And since usually smart home sensors come with a magnetic plate, you can stick them about anywhere. It's much more convenient. The second thing is that you have to press on the button to reveal the temperature and the humidity values. And to be honest, it's quite frustrating, since with two AAA batteries, it wouldn't drain much battery to do so, to keep the screen on. Also, you can't remotely turn on the screen, which is a pity, since you could pair it with their brand new motion sensor, for example, and display the values once someone passes by or enter in a room. And I think it's definitely something that is fixable over a software update. So IKEA, if you're hearing this, and that's actually a great transition to their brand new motion sensor. And I'm actually very pleased about this one, as the old generation motion sensor was a big disappointment for me. This one has been working quite good and proved to be more reliable, at least for the past couple of days. Nothing more to say about this sensor, honestly, just super cheap, it's a steal. Go and buy it. I just wish IKEA also did presence sensors, as motion sensors would stop catching your presence when you stop moving. No one actually expected this, but IKEA released the water leak sensor. Once again, the AAA batteries is a solid strategy for such a critical sensor. Fortunately, I cannot report on the reliability of this sensor on a real life situation. However, as per my laboratory tests, it worked great. It does report true when two metal pins are wet, and also emit quite a loud sound, which is actually great. All in all, very affordable sensor either way, better safe than sorry, you should definitely get it. Paradoxally, the most expensive sensor in this new line of product is the cheapest air quality sensor you can get on the market. It is also the only one that doesn't work with batteries, but rather a USB-C cable, which isn't provided. I actually don't mind for the price, but it's worth mentioning. The sensor actually reports multiple values via matter, such as temperature and humidity, and of course carbon dioxide and particulate matter 2.5, not 10. You also get an additional relative value that tells you about overall air quality. It is reflected by that little colored LED on the sensor. It can also display the time. You don't even need to manually configure it because it's done automatically once you configure it with Matter. Honestly, what a time to be alive. There is also a virtual switch exposed that you can use to turn the screen on or off, which I wish was available on the temperature and humidity sensor, by the way. So this virtual switch makes it actually amazing for presence-based automation. So for example, you put this sensor in the room and you make it turn on only when someone is there. I cannot say it enough, this one is an absolute steal for the price. Even if some people online said that the carbon dioxide readings were inaccurate, I compared it to two other devices from other brands and I got similar readings, to be honest. I actually think I will keep it as my desk clock / only one sensor. If I had a complaint that isn't actually one, is more like a wish, I would have loved if it was possible to make it regularly scroll through the different readings, since you have to actually manually do that by pressing on the button. Finally, IKEA also released these funky remote controls. One of them is a very simple double button, and each button has 4 features: single press, double press, triple press, and long press. The other remote is a bit more complex and embeds a scroll wheel. The main button of that remote is actually located on the scroll wheel, and like the other remote, it can register a single, double, triple, or long press. You can use the scroll wheel to dim or adjust anything you'd like, such as lights, media players, or even curtains position, for example. You can also press and rotate, which adds another pair of actions. And if this wasn't enough, the lower button of the remote allows you to switch between channels. You have 3 channels, allowing you up to 24 different actions, and on a single remote, in theory. Yes. The pairing process is seamless. You can even switch it to Zigbee mode following quite a strange and complicated procedure, but at the time of registering this video, the Zigbee integration isn't complete yet. Adding it via matter over thread will show you a total of 9 buttons and 9 current switch position sensors, which can be a bit confusing at first, but as you switch the channels and press on the remote differently in different buttons, you will see that each button is there for a reason. Of course, if you use the expensive IKEA hub, you probably won't have to worry about that, as everything will happen under the hood for you. On Home Assistant, however, if you want to automate the remote without going insane, you can use a very useful blueprint created by a community member. This blueprint works great and helps you set up custom actions in seconds for each channel, and even customize the scrolling wheel for dimming lights, control a media player, or any custom action. Now, all of the controls work great, but the scroll wheel doesn't give a very good user experience. In fact, it works, but it feels clunky. When you actually scroll fast, it doesn't seem like the button registers all of the clicks. You actually have to go click by click very slowly, so it kinda defeats the purpose. However, it's really hard to expect more from such an affordable product. In fact, we've seen a lot of brands over the years attempting to create a low power scroll wheel button, but it's actually quite challenging, and that's why we don't see it often on the market, because technically to do so at such a low price is very hard. And releasing a scroll wheel button at a high price doesn't really make sense, and people don't really understand why it would be so pricey and wouldn't end up buying it. So please let me know in the comments if you had success with that on your end, whether it's through the IKEA app or with any third-party ecosystem. To sum up, this new IKEA line is a great progress, even though we saw that some devices are not perfect yet. For the price range, it is more than acceptable. If you count the fact that now they work over Matter, it makes it even cheaper for someone that is not a power user, because it allows them to directly connect and add those devices to their ecosystem, whether it's Apple Home, Google Home, Alexa, SmartThings, and so on. All of that without having to buy the IKEA bridge. Some devices are actually incredible. I'm thinking about the air quality sensor, which works great, and has now set a pricing precedent for any future air quality sensor on the market. The fact that most of those new sensors work with the most common batteries you can find is also amazing. Of course, it makes the sensors bigger, but also gives them more autonomy, which means less servicing. The most important thing to consider, like for any type of product that has a wide pricing range on the market, is that it probably has different usages. For example, for the reasons that I gave in this video, the IKEA door sensor isn't a fit for critical situations, but it's definitely amazing for comfort automations. For critical situations, like an entry door or something that you care about deeply, a more expensive sensor makes more sense. So like everything, it's not about who makes the best product, but which product provides the best value for a given situation at a given price. Please let me and the community know in the comments what your experience on these new IKEA devices, as I'm sure it's gonna help someone, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.